Hi, I'm Sue Greenwell with awakenedstories.com. I'm here today doing a video called Becoming Awakened with Chris Gray. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hi, Sue. Thanks for welcoming me and inviting me.
I'm so glad you're here today. Chris and I have been chatting a little bit, and what I told her is my intention for these videos is to show a broad variety of different backgrounds, religious upbringing, childhood experiences, traumas, experiences, and just showing or letting the viewer know that there is no one right way to become awakened. We've all had a great amount of variety in our experiences. And was just chatting with Chris. It's totally different than anything I would have guessed. So Chris, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? And I know you're in Australia. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up, how your parents were, what your beliefs were, maybe what religion your family was, that sort of thing.
Well, we were very Catholic. I always said my mum was the Catholic and my dad was the Christian. Not that my mum wasn't Christian, but she went to church basically nearly every day. My dad was sort of different to that. He went to the church, but he left when he was told in one mass how to vote. And he and a lot of men walked out. They had no right to say that and to vote Liberal, which we were in a new area and a lot of people didn't have a lot of money. So to vote for all the rich people that they were putting in just didn't make any sense to us.
Right.
But, I was very young. I was told that by my cousin and I knew that to be true because Dad never went back apart from weddings and funerals and things like that.
Right.
But we had a very, very busy family life. We had a very small house but a massive backyard. We had 8 kids. 6. Mum lost a couple too. I don't know where we'd have put them because a 2-bedroom house and Mum and Dad often had 2 babies in their room and they made their way through my life in my room. I was the 3rd eldest and there was only one other girl and she was about 12 and a half years after me, my sister. So it was basically Mum and I sort of doing the housework,
right,
the babysitting, the cooking from a very, very young age, which is probably why kids are so important to me. My brothers were pretty lazy. They didn't have to do much, which was she only had 2 brothers and 5 sisters and was one of the youngest. So I always thought it would have been a help if we had have had, like 6 girls and 2 boys, not the other way around.
Yeah.
But my dad, he worked, the backyard was a massive garden, basically, vegetable gardens, 2 chook houses and all the trees you can think of in fruit trees. And my dad, I always said, was a Christian because he would help anyone, which I like to think I do. And the other thing was that anything that we didn't use, he passed on. He took to work, we gave to neighbours. So that was very important. It was a bit hard for us kids, though. We weren't supposed to play in the backyard. We didn't have toys. We didn't really have toys. There wasn't money for that sort of thing, but we always had a bat or at least a piece of wood. And we would play cricket on the road, footy on the road, but we were off a very, very busy street, a very big road, and then our street was very busy with all the schools around. So we sort of spent our time picking up the bin and moving it for cars to go by and then putting it back on to play sport or wheel each other.
Yeah.
So as the only sort of girl in the street, I learnt to play cricket and football. I was very adept at that.
Right. So it sounds like you're versatile because you learned to do the traditional woman's work, cook, clean, and take care of kids, right? But
Yep.
you also learned sports and how to negotiate with the boys.
Yes. I've always known how to stand up.
Yeah.
My actual brother, the oldest brother, was a bully. He bullied all of us, and I mean, he would punch us. And I learned. Oh yeah, I learned not to cry. My dad didn't know. He was gone working, you see, and I just learnt you don't cry because then he just hit you more. So there were brothers that weren't as strong as me, but I tell you what, it teaches you character. It teaches you to speak up, because even if he hit me, I told him what I thought of him.
Thank you, sir. May I have another, right?
Yes, and throughout my life, and particularly in these protesting and things, whenever stuff goes down, I always say to people, I've been bullied by the best. Get in line.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, you know, any crisis you do go through, no one wants a crisis or anything unpleasant. We want to have an easy, quick, smooth life. But anything like that does make you stronger. And so you're able to handle things in the future because of that experience. Yeah.
Yes, well, I wanted to leave home early because I thought I'd brought up the last 4 with mum, and my dad was gone 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. He had a very important job in media, and I learned a lot from that. I also learned to speak up because my dad always did speak up about things he didn't think were right. And that was an important lesson for me. Like with Smarty, I talk a lot, but I also do listen. And I think that's an important thing to do.
Right.
And I think on things later, and decide which way I'm going to go. A bit like my dad, I won't be told anything that I don't believe. I have a great bullshit meter, excuse the expression.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can tell fake from a mile away.
Right.
And that has always stood me in good stead.
Right. So I think that is something that will serve you as discernment. So there's so much dis and misinformation out there, a lot of it intentional. And so you can watch or listen to something and say, okay, correct or not correct. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, I don't even waste my time with it anymore. Like a few years ago, I was watching stuff and I knew it wasn't true or real.
Yeah.
But I stopped doing that a couple of years ago because of the time it takes. But why listen to something that's not true? They're trying to mislead us, or they'll give us 80% truth, 20% disinformation. Why bother? I already have the gist of what's going on. I don't need what they're telling me to think,
Well, I think that was an important lesson I also learned from my father. I remember once I was asking him about something at the tea table, and he said, he was a proofreader, and he was eventually in charge of the proofreading for the major newspaper we had here. They weren't well paid, but they had the radio and the television station too. They were the ones that got the big money. So for 10 people, he had to work a lot of hours.
Right.
But what he did say was, it's not always important when you're reading to read what's there. He said, we can change everything by taking out the word not, like the world's not at war when it is at war, or putting it in. And he said, everything is changed by small words. So I learnt to, I really did take that in. I think I was probably the only one that did listen, but I thought, well, that to me meant everything can change, and not just worldwide, but in anything, if you use the right or the wrong words. And I sort of look back at that and think, I learned there was a lot of control way back then in media. That's what he was telling me.
That was a good lesson because he was teaching you to become a critical thinker. And of course, they probably didn't use those terms, but so many people will read something or they read the headline, like the Facebook stuff. They'll read the headline and they just swallow it up and they don't actually read the article. And I've read articles and it's like they're not even related to the headline before.
Absolutely.
But see, people, they just believe, and there's so much coming at them, they don't actually think about what they're reading. So whenever I listen to something or I hear a news report, I'm always like, well, who's telling me and who's going to benefit from this and like why? So I try to dig into it, and then, intuition kicks in or other knowledge I might have. So it served me well.
Well, I agree with you because, I knew that they were a Liberal. Dad came home and told us we were a Labor family, and Liberal was just about always in, and they owned the newspapers, the television, the radio, the sports. They owned a lot back then. And that made me really sit up and think, well, they've got so much power, They tell you what they want you to know. And for me, that was always I don't think so. I'll be looking into things.
Right. Well, and certain things, like I always wondered, like I remember, let's just say in the 80s it was, like Ethiopia was the big buzzword, like that they're starving out there and we had to do all these fundraisers and this and that. So for like 2 months, that was the big thing everyone was concerned about.
Yes.
And then it totally went away. Now, did we solve the hunger problem there? No. It just people have such a short memory and they went on to the next crisis or, buzzword. And that's exactly what they've been doing. I noticed
Yes.
that when I was like a teenager, in fact, and I was like, why do they like this event hasn't been healed, it hasn't stopped. Why are we not talking about it? Why are we not really trying to solve it? And it just seemed like the world was upside down to me. I've always like this doesn't even make sense, and people believe it, so
I think that's the important thing that I got out of everything, that I was probably the odd one out in my family, but the odd one out in many things, because I questioned everything. I didn't know the answers, but I sure had the questions.
right. Did your family or even your extended family, did they ridicule you in any way for your beliefs, or maybe that you were, thinking in a broader sense than the traditional party line that people believe?
Well, I was a very good arguer. So, you know, I followed the history. So
Yeah.
when people sort of question me on things, I said, change my mind.
Yeah.
And I would say, I know this, this, and this. So that's where
Yeah.
I'm coming from. So people usually either gave up or asked me more questions and sort of came on board.
Right.
I really
Right.
didn't struggle. People always believed me, which
Yeah.
always surprised me because I was always coming out of left field. But if you follow history, even though we know it's been turned upside down, I read about the wars. I was really interested in everything like that. So I knew my stuff.
Right. Right. I used to say to my kids, like, you can have any opinion you want and you're welcome to have it, but you need to support that opinion. Don't regurgitate what somebody else says. If you believe something, you need to be able to tell me why. And they didn't really get that. They just thought I was crazy, probably, but I still believe that. And I have my beliefs. I like to think, and I am stubborn. Okay, I'm going to dig in on my beliefs. But if you can show me information, I put that in the back burner and I mull it over a little bit, and then something else will come along and I'm like, ooh, it's right. And then I will change. And I've done that so many times, like in the past 10 or 20 years, especially as new information has come across. And it's not easy. And it's definitely not popular,
No,
especially when we know kind of what we know, what's really
exactly.
happening out there. Yeah.
You've just got to work it. Well, I worked at not falling out with people,
Yeah.
so we would agree to disagree on certain things.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
if we learnt any more, it was a conversation for another day,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because
Yeah.
people can get really angry and abusive. And I have no part in that.
Yeah.
Keep your voice down or go have another drink. I'll talk to you when you're sober.
Yeah. Yeah. So you grew up in a busy, probably noisy household. Did your parents like teach you, like, say, religion or the way to think about politics or society? Like, did they kind of give you their beliefs and you should believe this and this is how it is? Or did they let you kind of come to your own conclusions?
Well, I think my mum was very, very Catholic. We had Catholic education all the way through, so we certainly would have been influenced by that. We lived basically around state school kids, and I never really understood. I got pushed over in a couple of things, and I never really understood why there was any bullying, because I loved my friends that were in a state school, and I didn't even really realise what the hell is a state school. We're a Catholic school, they're a state school. I didn't even really know there was anything else until years later when I went to a Methodist youth club. But I always felt that as long as people were good and nice,
Right.
I wanted to be with them, and I really never cared any
Right.
other way. So I think that was good, and I think my dad had a real presence with that, because he didn't believe, he certainly believed that he didn't care what colour skin you were or what religion you were. Was more important to my mum, the religion side, but she was still a very good person. And they worked so hard with, 10 people in a small house.
I guess so.
Yeah. And Dad wasn't there a lot. And I wish we had seen more of Dad. And he had a stroke at, I was only about 41, and I had to miss a term in year 11 to help Mum because we had a new baby and a 3-year-old. And his health was never really that great. So he had a heart attack just after our wedding, not to do with my wedding. And then he got cancer and he died pretty young. And that was another thing that started me down the looking into cancer, because I just knew kids were dying of it around not just our area, but sort of it was, they were quoting 96% leukemia, with childhood, this, that, and the other thing is cured. And with Dad getting cancer and nearly his entire family getting cancer, and that was becoming very, very common all around us, I started to look into that. And that's about 35 years ago that I was looking into cancer. And I have actually been able to cure some of my own and help other people. And it's all been through natural health things. So I went in a big way into cancer and natural healings. And also I followed who made the money and why.
Bingo.
And thus, that was a huge awakening for me.
Right. Right.
And that's what helped me awaken other people. And the last 2 years, it's been incredible, the sheer volume of people that have woken up in Victoria, around Australia, New Zealand, and indeed the world.
Right. Yeah, I've been watching the videos, and of course you've been putting your own videos, but I'm seeing some of the massive crowds every weekend. And I'm glad, because Australia is so oppressed right now. I'm not there, but I don't even know how thank God you have Bob, okay? Because it would be so difficult to live like that and to be restricted like you are.
Well, I said to Bob, if he hadn't come on board with everything and with Smarty and all that, but with when we were still doing the sort of the Q white hat stuff that I'd follow like everybody else.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't have been awake and I hadn't been able to wake him up, I said to him, you'd be living down one end of the house and I'd be living down the other.
Right. It's stressful.
Because that's the divide. That's the divide. Yeah. We have seen so many families fall apart. We're not seeing our own grandson, Caleb. We're not seeing some of our family, because they believe it was bad before, once COVID went down, but when we wouldn't jab and they knew that we were going to protests, yes. So there's a lot of people we're not speaking to. Yeah. But in saying that, we've found a whole tribe of wonderful people. And yeah, I do a lot of speaking at those sort of things. We do the chants, we do the walking. I've been looked after though by Daddy. Smarty and the Jedis have also helped with protection, weather and help. But I mean, I have been actually told by good police at least 5 or 6 times what way to go. I had my girlfriend say to me, don't believe them, one time. And I said, no, I just checked and we're fine. And this is what we've got to do. Yeah. But, we've been shot with things. And our people have, the pepper spray and, but we know that Bob and I need to go, except when Daddy tells us not to, because we provide protection and healing. It's a great place to heal.
Right. So you can wand the whole crowd in one shot. And you're doing those people a great service.
Not just the crowd, protests I've always used as a chant. Well, we see people in wheelchairs and all sorts of things, but I can wand when it gets angry and that sort of thing, since we had the wand. Right. But I also like to hit all the churches, the shops, the streets, the footpaths, the trains, the rail tracks, all the people coming in. Right. Right. So it's a great opportunity. I see it as. It totally is. I tell my crystalline frequency generator, I carry it with me in my purse. I have it in a little bag because I've dropped it like 5 or 6 times. Okay. But I tell it to heal everybody to their original DNA within its radius. So I don't have to think about it. So I just carry that with me whenever I leave the house. If I'm going to a big crowd, especially, I'll take
the wand, the metal wand, because I don't
Same
have a
here.
good, because I seem to drop everything, but I will wand everybody. And like where I live, I can wand them right out in the open and they don't think anything of it. In fact, many of them have asked me where I've gotten them. So that's been fun. And then like I went to a music festival a few weekends ago and there were vendors. I went and wanted them and all of their products. So they were selling, say, crystals or candles. When those go home with somebody, they'll have a higher vibration.
Exactly.
So just by doing those little things, we can make a big difference that ripples out within our areas.
I take my metal wands to the marches.
Yeah.
Not using. Sometimes I'll take the one that I can wear with that hangs there, but generally the metal wand for that reason, for protection, so it doesn't get broken. Particularly, people wouldn't believe we've had to run from police for about a year. We had you had to make it to the main area to where we were meeting, and because there's always infiltrators, whatever we put up wasn't where we were going to be. So it's been an incredible journey, and I think Bob and I were needed for this on both sides, in the Smarty and Source side. But once we were on with Smarty and Daddy, I also felt we were always protected. We would be looked after.
Right.
And I had to heal my girlfriend that was pepper sprayed, the cop, when she was pushed down, and he sprayed it into her eyes. And then he leaned over and did it a second time. So that spray went over she couldn't see. So they messaged me, because I wasn't actually with her at that time, which was Daddy protecting me, because it was the one and only time I didn't have my phone with me. When I grabbed my small bag for marching, for protesting, it fell out and I didn't realise. I'd put something else extra in, it had fallen out. So I wasn't at the front where I usually am. I was at the back looking for it, and all this went down. But then we got a phone call from a friend, and we went and we were able to heal her. She could see again before we were even left. But she was on fire. She was freezing because it was winter, and we'd had all the milk poured all over her to diffuse the capsicum spray. The others were pretty burnt too. And I only got, after hugging her, after healing her, I only got a little bit on my eye, my mouth and that. And golly, it burns. It's terrible stuff.
That can be pretty nasty. I went to a party where there was someone from, I think it was Denmark, and he turned 30. So they put a little container of pepper over his head. That's some sort of a tradition. And I was probably 10, 15 feet back, and just breathing pepper in, it was nasty. It was nasty.
It's a terrible thing.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And,
I can't believe they did that deliberately the second time.
Well, all of our stuff was deliberate, but the police got shown up, and eventually they started leaving and backing us. A lot of them are cadets now, but we get really good support now. But it was very, very bad here for a long time, because they actually wanted to they wanted to stop us protesting. And so we just went to other areas, but we're back in town, and it's really, really good. We've lost a lot of numbers because of how many people were damaged. Like I told you, I've lost 2/3 of my hair, which it sort of looks all right, but I've got bags and bags of it. People were burnt, their lips, and just so many injuries from the LRAD weapon, the acoustic weapon they used on us. And what people probably don't realise when they're listening to us is that in Australia, we're not even allowed to carry a pocket knife.
Right.
So we are weaponless, totally weaponless. And so to be shooting us with rubber bullets, pepper spray, clubbing us, dragging us off is just unconscionable.
It's a numbers game. It's like that Ant movie where they're up against the grasshopper bullies. You've got the numbers, but there are going to be losses, which is horrible.
Yes.
But I think it has to be done. So tell us about this this weapon, or the acoustic weapon. Tell us about that experience. We're a little bit off topic, but I think it's interesting, and people don't understand the magnitude that you're going through over there.
Well, we are allowed to have our masks off now. That's the good news. The sad news is so many people are still wearing them. That just beggars belief. One of my things that has helped me from the word go is when anybody in the plaza or anywhere we've been sort of looked at me without a mask, I would say, if your mask works, I'm no problem for you. And then when the jabs came in, and again, you know, you had to prove you were jabbed or not. And of course we weren't. And I'd say the same thing. If your jab works, I'm still not a problem for you. Right. So it's amazing that you can wake people up with some fairly simple things and you don't have to tell them all the awful things we've been through.
Right.
But because on our television, all they see is when our people retaliate. And some of that is the Black Like Me stuff often starting. We know that to be true. But people are awake now. And what has happened is we've had a complete turnaround in that nurses, doctors, police, so many are joining us now. Right. Because they realise these people are unarmed. We have a right to protest. We always have. And it's just, you know, that the wake up has been massive. So I guess like in most tyranny, it actually reverts on them in the end, because it wakes up good people that really wouldn't have stepped up at any stage, but they have.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be protesting unless you were oppressed in this area. You know, you were just going about your life, living the happy life. And then along comes the pandemic with all these rules that seem to change daily, you know, excuses of why you've got to do this or that. And then for you couldn't leave your house unless it was like, you couldn't go, what was it, 5 kilometers outside your house?
That was the most you could do. And you had to be back by 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was just nonsense.
Like, how does that even make sense? Really? They're just trying to like limit what you're doing and control, you know?
Exactly.
There's no logic there.
Well, that's the thing that's really hard. There is no logic to any of this because our kids weren't wearing masks at first and babies. So you've got, you know, kids are little germ factories. They're the ones that usually get sick and spread it. And I used to say to people, so, okay, kids, you're all, you know, kids and people, you're all breathing the same air, whether you're in a shopping centre, a car, or, you know, in a house, you're all breathing the same air. Why aren't the kids dying? Why aren't the babies dying? Why aren't the police dying? The PCR testers, the nurses and the doctors? We're not hearing any deaths, you know, just people. So that's a big way.
It's just convenient excuses and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're kind of off on a huge tangent, but it's very interesting and I think helpful to people because a lot of people, like, they see what's on the TV. We're being censored. Like all the social media here pretty much is censored. The TV is just propaganda. And like I walked through the airport, well, let's just say it was a year ago. And, you know, I don't have a regular TV. And I was just horrified at the 24/7 propaganda I saw. And of course, I kind of was like eating or something. I'd have to listen to it. And people get brainwashed that way. After a while, they believe it, you know.
That and all the online rubbish that everybody's watching. I stopped watching that stuff, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. You know, I would watch something out of an interest point of view and just to be around the family. But mostly I went off to do my private study in history and cancers and natural stuff, because it just, to me, you know, the first series of everything I found was quite good. And then it would go evil and dark and be all about women being men, men being women, you know, men being together, women being together. It just, to me, was ruining families. You know, I just thought this isn't what young people should see. And I don't even really understand why anybody's watching this nonsense.
Right. Well, because if you speak up against it, you're, you know, whatever, homophobic or whatever, you're not playing nice with what their agenda. And, you know, I don't know if you've heard about the Disney stuff recently. They've had a lot of arrests at Disney and taken away, I think it was the CEO and several other people, and they've come up with the child trafficking and blah, blah, blah. But they just passed a law, I think it was last week in Florida, that a teacher in a school, for example, cannot discuss sexual orientation, gender, any of that stuff with a kid. I think it was by age 7 or 8. So in other words, the teachers can't influence them or whatever. And Disney is blowing a gasket. Okay. Because they're going to put transgenderism and all this stuff in their movies and their shows. And of course, they're the biggest broadcaster out there, right? They own everything now.
Absolutely.
And every show has it in there. And it's not like the natural way I think most people live. And so they are like, Disney is having a fit. And I think it's awesome. And I hope that like all of what they've done comes to light and people find out what they're really about.
Well, I think that we're mostly around awake people and we know that they've been using this against us all this time.
Right.
But a lot of teachers have joined us now. And that's quite interesting because they don't like what they're being told to teach our kids.
Right. Yeah.
And the kids' rights, that they're letting kids have change of sex from 7 up and all sorts of nonsense that they're bringing in or have tried to bring in or have brought in. And it's just nonsense.
Right. My daughter works at a public school here. And she says that, mostly girls come to her and tell her all these stories about what's happened. And nothing happens with the administration at the school. Like nothing is done. Okay. So my daughter is going to advocate for these girls and go to the superintendent in the school board meetings. And she's doing that, I think, next week. So I've been giving her my ideas. Like, I don't know much about what to do, but, documentation to document this and show where the administration, like, let this behavior go on in their school knowingly. And that's just one school out of what, jillions of them out there. Yeah.
It's pretty appalling the way it's gone, it's very quick step. I have found the last, 15, 20 years that nearly everything we were taught has been upended and not well.
Right.
We could see the evil agenda. And I think that's where Bob could wake up to a lot of things too, because he also worked on the school councils and things with me.
Right.
And, we just saw a massive difference. And the churches, what they were sort of saying,
Right.
But
if you're not pushing the liberal agenda, you're bashed and you're discredited, / if you're famous, you might even be killed, if you're an influencer. And they've bought the media and people just eat it right up. And it's sad.
Well, it's so powerful. And I learned that from my dad, and watching the media. Right. They put out their one skewed version of whatever it is, and then they'll pump it and pump it and pump it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when we finally got traveling, I went to the Vatican with Bob. We went there and booked in and that, and St. Peter's Church and the whole lot. When I came out into the garden, I saw the most massive pine cone thing. And it just hit me. That's evil. What the hell is that doing in the Vatican? And that was in 2009. And I tell you what, from then on, I looked at everything on and in the churches. I looked at the faces. I started to realise then there was a lot of evil stuff in and on our churches and at the Vatican. And I didn't feel good there. And, I didn't even really know why I didn't feel good, but I didn't. The only place I really felt good was when I went up in St. Peter's Church. It was beautiful, and waiting to go up to the statue, everybody was so reverent. And when my turn came and I put my hand there to do prayers for people I cared about, that was the time I felt the most spiritual I had ever felt in my life. And I actually thought that was to do with being there. I worked out all those years later, I think it was there was a hollow in St. Peter's foot where everybody put their hand over all those years asking for their prayers. And I realised before this went down, but certainly during that time, that was the good people praying to God.
Right.
I was picking up on all of their good prayers for family members that were sick or for whatever reason.
Right.
That's where I felt the best in the whole of the Vatican state.
Right. And people don't realize that the Vatican has what we see on the surface, and then we'll call it the dark Vatican, and all the
Yep.
stuff that they do underneath. And I saw footage maybe 3 years ago of, I don't know what they would be called, bishops or whatever. And there was literally a reptilian walking with them in line.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was a shorter, like a human, let's say is 5 to 6 feet. It was probably like 4 to 5 feet. But I mean, I sent that around, and everyone I sent it to didn't even like respond, like whether they even watched it or not. Shocking, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's just interesting how that infiltrated our world the
Yeah.
entire time. And
Yeah.
like, I just sort of, when I woke up, I always knew kids were missing. I always knew that kids went missing for everything,
Right.
you know, Katrina and everything worldwide, kids went missing. And I never really understood why or how. And like the kids that were sent out here from England, and that we know terrible things have happened to them.
Right.
But when all of this went down, I had so many of my questions answered. And then when I came on to Smarty and Source Directives, oh,
Right.
look, it was wonderful, because Smarty, you know, he was the Jesus we were meant to have, or
Right.
the galactic at the right time, in the
Right.
right place.
Right.
He, you know, he spoke the truth. I just came away thinking, God, Daddy, Source has sent us the right person.
Right.
Obviously, in undercover for all those years to probably protect him, but he mightn't love the way he looks, but we all do. I'm going to miss him when we do get Sananda Galactic.
Yeah.
But I just felt in my being, this is the person for the job.
Right.
He's, you know, he's not going to muck around. He's going to do what he's got to do. Yeah, come along or you don't. It's not his problem.
You need someone strong, and you can't have someone that's wishy-washy. And
Exactly.
like everybody thinks Jesus or whoever should be so peaceful and peace loving. Well, of course he is, but there is so much dark on this planet right now. People aren't even aware of it. It has to be exposed, revealed, and taken off. You need someone strong to do that. So
Absolutely.
he's perfect for that. And of course, he flew under the radar by the way he looks and acts and where he grew up, probably. You know, we're all expecting probably a wealthy elite person, I don't know, that would be the second coming, if you will. Well, I think the fact that we've got a tattooed, like he says, shit talking, funny guy,
Yep.
that's kicking ass. We need that. We need that. And I'm
Well,
grateful.
he's in warrior mode. I
Yeah.
don't know. Jesus may have been in warrior mode at times. We don't know,
Yeah.
because all we've got are these pictures that we see, because
Yeah.
none of us were there. Well,
Yeah.
were there and remember anyway.
Yeah.
And I just think it was all about loving. But he did throw up the tables. You
Right.
know, he gave it out a few times.
Right.
And I just think it's exemplified with Smarty, because
Yeah.
this could have been end of times for us.
Right.
So
Right.
we needed someone that was going to speak out, stand up, and, you know, take action, and not
Yes.
just expect to be able to preach to people and they were going to do it. We had to do it. The
Right.
people have to do it too.
Right.
But we had to have the leader. And being with Daddy and Smarty and all the tools that they've given us, you know, we're
Right.
unstoppable.
Right. I love being in the group, and I love the information we get in the real, like, let's call it the backstory of what's happening. Like,
Yes.
I already have like inklings of my own, but when he puts something out there, it's like, and I can't wait till we know more. You know, I'm very curious about it. But I think it's going to amplify like the next month or two. It's what we're going to learn and find out. It's going to be exponential to what it has been. So it'll be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see the angelics and the galactics. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
along the way, he tells us so much exciting info.
Right.
And so people, you know, our people in our protests are always worried about things. Bob and I are not worried. We know all good's coming. We just know we keep manifesting, we keep healing, we keep working, and we're out with the people and we can encourage them. You
Right.
know, I know when I speak to them and I say, don't worry, just keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
All good is coming.
Right.
And if you'd have told me when I started this that I'd be healing people out in the open and, you know, and all these protesting people that are like this, that I'd say, would you like a healing? And they'd go, yes, please, or why not? Because
Yeah.
Australians are very sort of, sport's incredibly important to us. We're sort of the sporting nation, and Victoria's the hub of that. But we're not really interested in our politicians. We don't trust any of them. None of our people
Right.
really trust politicians.
Right.
We've never had a war on our shores. We've sent our men over. But that was one of the things that woke me up. They decimated our forces over the last few decades, and I argued a lot with Bob about that. We can't even look after Victoria. So I said, what the hell is going on? They've done nothing but, you know, turn us into computer people and very few soldiers. They sent everything north, our planes and everything like that. And Victoria and Sydney, we were the hub of that sort of thing in the first place, and the training ground. And I said to Bob, what? So the enemy's only going to come to where they know everything, what little we
Right.
have is.
Right.
I just knew we were unprepared.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when Smarty turned up, I thought, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I think I am so grateful, and it seems so natural and organic to me. But now I look back and I see it was supposed to happen. And
Yes.
I am so grateful. I can't tell you. I mean, I was doing what I was doing, but I didn't have a better overview. I am so grateful to have met Smarty and to be involved in this group. So grateful. And the
And
good people.
you
Yeah.
just know it's the truth. You
Yeah.
just feel it in
Yeah.
you that this is the truth, and
Right.
that's what we're working for. And those that have stayed, we're just working, you know,
Right.
to bring it in, to manifest it, and to keep healing. I mean, it doesn't get to be a better world than
Right.
helping change the world
Right.
yourself
Right.
and with other people and with like-minded people.
Right. So, and I said this the other day, world peace starts with you. You have to feel peace, and then it ripples out to your friends, your family, your associates. And so even doing one healing, that's one healing more than we had before. So everything we're doing is so helpful to our geographic areas, but that ripples around the earth.
I
So
think that's really important for Bob and I too,
yeah,
the healings and doing that,
yeah,
because the
yeah.
rest of the time we're fighting, you know. So it's like, you know, fighting with words and fighting with our actions and
Yeah,
completely, you know, that's what the marching's about. We go to the
yeah,
vaccine hubs, we go to, we stand at Parliament, we stand all the places where
right,
people are and where people are going to hear us.
right, right,
So that's very important for us. But on the other side of that, we've got the healing and the joy, and we're not scared like other people are.
right,
And
right,
another thing we can impart is don't be frightened.
right,
It's all
right.
coming to a head, you know. So it's wonderful to tell people Jesus is here. He's back.
I know. So exciting. So has there, other than the pandemic, which was a pretty big crisis, were there events or a crisis in your life that really was like a catalyst for growth, spiritual growth for you? I know that this pandemic, I think, was a huge one for everyone on earth because it affected everybody. Of course, we all have different stories about that. And it definitely affected the Australians profoundly
Oh, yeah.
because you're still not free, you know. And but was there any other events maybe earlier in your life that were catalysts for change for you?
Well, I think I touched on either with you or in speaking that my father got cancer. And so that really sent me down a
Right,
whole different route to what I
right,
would have expected to have gone, looking into to the money and to what was wrong in the world.
right,
And so that made me sort of go down a natural path that I probably wouldn't have gone on without that. I mean, I had all our kids vaccinated on time. We vaccinated. I mean, we were just used to this world of big pharma.
right, right,
Um, and I just realised and woke up and started marching the other way. So
Right.
that picked up a lot of different people too. I have series and books that I've loaned out to people, but health is very important, you know, and I think Dad dying so young too, lucky we were, some of us were a decent age, but you can't believe the impact it has on a family when the breadwinner
Yes.
goes.
Yes.
And that was kind of massive for me.
Right. I'm
And the other
sorry
thing would
about
have
that.
been,
Yeah.
oh, thank you. And the other thing would have been the military side. That wouldn't have been a path I ever wanted to go down, but I think it placed me in a place where I was able to help women stand up and kids in schools and things like that. So
Right.
that was very important to me too.
So I think we talked about that a little bit before we started recording. So can you kind of give us an overview of what that entails, the military side? Like, tell us what that means to you.
Well, I found it very interesting when we arrived in Newcastle on the fighter base, and we were living actually on the base, that when I had our first child, we started at playgroup and everything else, we pretty quickly, I picked up that we women and the children weren't really important. They weren't a defence problem or a RAF problem. They were only interested in our husbands. So to me, that meant we had to get more organised. And that was really great, you know, with playgroups, with kindergarten, schools and councils and all that sort of thing being on it. But I was also in women's groups where we brought changes. We got psychs. It took us years, but we got psychs able to speak to the women and the families when there were problems, because there was a lot of separation and a lot of problem. Bob was away 3 months at a time, several times. And he had to work 13 hours and shifts, and they did a lot of things that weren't very good for families because they didn't care about us, basically.
Right.
We split up, bad luck.
Yeah.
And most men and women were sent to the padre, who basically then reported on the problems to the lead, whatever the next person up was. And the men were just told to get back to work and sort the women out. And so nothing was ever...
And I'm getting that you don't like being sorted out.
Not at all. So that sort of brought out the questions in me. We need psychs. We need people to speak to that are on our side, that aren't just working, you know, the men, you know, just shut up, go back to work and tell the women the same.
Right.
That's not really inducive in a setup where we're away from all our families. All the women there, and wherever we went, you were basically not with your family, your mum, your dad, your family. And so defence, we had to make our own family wherever we were.
Right, right.
And when they were away, we all helped each other out. When anything happened, we helped each other out. So for, you know, that meant that we needed some professional help, not just being told what we should be doing.
Right, right.
And
it
so
is very
difficult.
It's difficult having a family and doing everything yourself and always be waiting and worrying. And so having that strong community is really important, and supporting each other was really important.
Yes, it was. It really was, because if you want the family to work, everybody's got to work on it.
Right.
And women, I realise now that, you know, I mean, even in the shows, women have always been important. We had an important role, and it wasn't just in the family, because, you know, women were by then back in the workforce too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was becoming more and more common back in the workforce, you know, even if it was only part-time. So it meant that men had to step up a bit more and do, and I think a good thing to see fathers looking after the kids or having more input in schools and with their children's lives.
Right, right. It is really incredible how important a father is to a child, all right, in their life. And I mean, they have 50% input in the child's development, attitudes, like skill sets and all that. And when the fathers are missing or, you know, always at work, it's a great loss. And again, I think that family dynamic has been broken up on purpose, especially in certain ethnic and racial groups. Let's just put it that way. The father is missing, the mother's struggling, there's no money, there's a lot of stress. Everything goes downhill fast. you know.
Well, I agree. I watched that happen. I was home to bring up my kids, our kids, because we were just country. So there was no
Yeah,
employment really for me until I finished with the kids, and then I went back into the workforce.
right,
But I watched over all those years how they divided the families. They set, wife against husband, kids against
right,
parents.
right.
It just, the divide that evil caused, I could just see it. And
Yeah,
it was really, really,
yeah,
so prominent. And it was making women, it had gone the reverse, where women were now more important than the men. And that's not true either. Everyone has their role to play. And I think that was the massive divide.
right.
And then, you add alcohol, you add all the drugs that were now around, and not being a drinker or a smoker or any of that kind of thing, I just thought they were all weaponized against us. So divide the
Yes.
family, divide everybody.
Yeah. It's definitely been an agenda. And I gotta say, it's been ingenious. Like I hate to,
Yes,
yeah, it's devious, and it totally worked, didn't it? And
it did.
probably the last 60 years. I mean, I think it's been a few hundred years that they've really been working on it, but in the past 60 years, we've seen it
Ramp.
accelerate. And now the past 10 years, and now what's happening now, it's crazy. And it is
Absolutely.
all designed to dissolve the family structure, the family core beliefs, and basically influence the kids a certain
Well,
way.
I'm sure yes, I agree with you. And I'm sure it's happened worldwide. But in Australia, when we were growing up, and even later on, we were self-sustaining. Sorry, can't
Yeah,
got the yes. We manufactured nearly everything ourselves. We had great cattle, great sheep. We're a big country with not a massive population, but we did everything ourselves, and
right.
we just watched everything, just go overseas because it was cheaper everywhere else to make our clothing, to make our food, to make everything. And I looked into that, and that was happening sort of as a worldwide thing, just certain
Totally.
places, yeah, where the
Yeah.
slavery was basically.
Yeah.
But that
Exactly.
impacted.
Bingo. That's exactly what happened here too. And really in the 80s and 90s, that's when it started. Like all the jobs went overseas so they
Yes,
could make products cheaper. And of course, we know about the slave labor, right? And so shortage of jobs, and then the price of everything goes up, and it's just a very
and
ugly.
the product isn't good. It
Yeah, yeah,
doesn't last.
right.
Your warranty, I say to people, if it's got a 1 year warranty, it'll die just after that. I mean,
Yeah,
I had a
yeah,
washing machine for about 20 something years.
yeah,
Can't tell you how many I've had in between with all
yeah,
the bells and whistles, but they don't last. And
yeah,
to me was indicative of society. They don't want anything to last.
exactly. It's all made to be broken. And my mother had a washing machine and a dryer I wish would have broke. I mean, I wish it would have broken. And finally, we had to get on our knees with a match to light the dryer. It was a gas dryer. You had to go in
Oh
and
my
light a
goodness.
pilot light. And I hated doing that. I always thought I was going to blow it up or whatever, but that thing was solid, right? Then they got a new one and they had trouble, 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 trouble. Just about every product is made to be broken. It's disposable. It's just horrible. And of course, all they want us to do is buy more, 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 more.
But
And
the other side of that is it's never as good as what you had. So you're not happy
yeah,
about that. It doesn't do what it says it would
right,
do.
right.
Bob will give you a litany of lists of things that I don't like,
Yeah,
and simply it's, triple the price, doesn't do what I want.
right, right,
And, all the whistles and buttons on the things now, we just had simple things and they worked.
right, right.
I feel that they've distracted us in every single aspect of
Totally,
our lives.
totally. Yeah. I have a relatively new car and it has a touch screen. So if you want to do volume up or down, you got to tap, 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 tap. Well, what about that little knob that was just volume or on off? That was so easy, rather tap, 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 tap. It's just a pain, you know?
It's also made people lazy. One of the things I didn't like,
Yeah.
and I do use them too, but we used to have to get up to change the channel. We used to have
Yeah.
to, get up
Yeah.
to turn it, go and turn it on, go and turn it off.
Right. Right.
I just saw all these things that you could do from sitting down weren't good for us.
Right.
I've always made Bob walk, which he enjoys now.
Yeah.
And I made our kids walk and ride because I just watched as people just sat down.
Yeah.
They might even play sport, but then they'd sit. We became a world of sitting people, sitting, watching, sitting, working. And I just felt that majorly impacted not just on your health, but your outlook.
Right.
Because when we walk around, even when we were locked down and we weren't allowed to sort of be out after 7 o'clock, we were meeting the same people on the walks. They were all masked. We weren't. We ended up talking to those people, patting their dogs. We got quite friendly, And it's just amazing when you get out there in the world walking or going to
Right.
anything, as long as you're not just sitting down on a screen. I
Right.
hate the screens.
Right.
Very useful, very important in a lot of ways, but I hate the fact that the jobs have become just you on a computer screen.
Right. Right. Yeah, we've become slaves to technology, and it's unfortunate. I was just thinking of that movie Wall-E. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's maybe,
Yeah, we did. Yep.
Yeah, where they just like everything's disposable, the garbage takes over Earth, and people get so fat and lazy they can't actually walk. And it kind of is true, isn't it? Like
It's
you look at,
absolutely true.
you go to your average Walmart and you've seen those pictures of the people that go to Walmart, but I feel bad when I go there. I do a lot of healing work because
Yes.
most of the people that go there are in bad financial circumstances and they have to buy the cheapest everything just to survive. So I go there and I do healing work. I try not to go there too often because it's very draining, but I feel sorry for people that, they're generally good people. And what's happened to them is really not their fault. They're just living their lives and they just don't have the expanded consciousness. They don't have awareness and they're kept in survival mode. So they really can't develop that. You know what I mean? It's really hard to worry about spiritual stuff when you just need a meal.
Well, they closed down our churches for the majority of that time. So that if you wanted to watch a mass, go to mass, basically, you weren't going, you were sitting watching it on your screen.
Right.
And we have a lot of elderly people, and that's what they're doing in the homes or anywhere. Now you're allowed to go again, but you have to be masked. I don't know if that one has come down because basically since we came on with Smarty, we haven't been back to church.
Right.
We don't need it. We've got it.
Yeah. So how did you find the Smarty group, the Source Directives group?
Well, Mel Hood and I were liking different things and putting up similar sort of things, and she messaged me at some stage and we had I don't know, about 5 or 6 hour talk on everything that we knew and believed.
Right.
And she said to me, you ought to come on to Source Directives.
Right.
And I said, oh, what's that? And she said, and she had said something about Smarty, King Smarty and whatever. And I said, can you send me a picture of him? So she sent me a picture and I looked at him and I sent back saying, oh, he looks like a strong supreme leader, because she'd said he's supreme commander. I wasn't sure of quite what.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I just got a really, really good vibe, and I'd got a good vibe with Mel. And she didn't say a lot. She let me come on. And like I said, from the minute he started talking, I was like listening. And then when he said who he was and what was happening, I wanted to be a part of it.
Right.
And I sort of felt that mission I've always been on. I think this is it.
Yeah. I've had so many stepping stones to lead me to that point. And it's been amazing because as I've become more aware, I recognize them now, but I believe they all were pointing me to this direction where I am now. I mean, maybe there's another part after this that I don't know about, but I think I was supposed to be led here, and I'm just so grateful,
Same here. I honestly believe that the whole journey has been leading up to this. And I felt that inherently from the very first time Smarty spoke. And then each other time was just more confirmation and validation of him and Daddy, and I didn't think I'd live a long life, but I thought, oh, I was meant to be here for this.
Yes, it's so it really is an exciting time. Like, I love these people that are, oh, it's so exciting to be alive now. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going through a little stress here, but it is a very exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to witness what's happening, and we're part of it.
And to be awake. That's what I say to
Be
people.
awake of
it's
it.
the best time ever to be awake and alive.
Totally. Totally.
And bringing it in, manifesting it in. Even before manifesting with Smarty and all that, we were still doing with the protesting and
Of
that.
course.
We were waking people up.
Of course.
And I saw that as my job, because I'm good with people. And for whatever reason, I've always been believed. So I guess I don't, I try not to make it too flowery. I'm pretty harsh sometimes. I say, well, this is it. But I'm believed, and people always come to me to find more.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think they sense your loving heart. Like, I've seen, your pictures and your videos, and, I've listened to you on our calls and things, but you're honestly trying to help others. You know what I mean? You care about others. And I think that, everybody has their own technique, but it comes across that you're sincere about that. And that's important. Yeah.
Well, I love to hear that, because, I sort of, my message is going to be there, but I do try to do it in the best way I possibly can, and to make it positive, because so much of, unfortunately, the bad stuff comes out in the rallies. And I mean, with all the fear, because they don't know what we know. They know they want to change the world, and they know how bad evil has been. But some people get really down with that. And that's where I know I can, not just using the wand, but my words are powerful, and I use them well.
And your presence, Yeah.
Yeah. I'm small, but I'm kind of dynamic. That's what I'm told. I'm small, but I can be a big pain in the ass.
You're a dynamo. So we kind of went off, a little bit rogue. And I had a lot of questions that we didn't answer. It doesn't matter. I think this was fabulous. But I guess my next question is, do you have any things that you would advise people who maybe want to become more awakened? Maybe they don't really get what we're talking about. Like, what might you advise them to do? How can they raise their vibration or be more aware? Anything along those lines?
Certainly come on to Smarty. Source directives, our rally group, they all know about Smarty. Most of them are wearing pendants, most of them are healing and doing things, so that's very important. But other than that, mostly I say to people, keep your vibe up. Don't let anything bring you down. We're bringing in the new world. You're out here fighting, so whether that's online, whether that's, because a lot of people are in different groups too. I've got lots of other groups with lots of people in them, worldwide as well as Australia. But I try to impart confidence. We're doing this. You're part of it. You're doing it. So keep your vibe up. Be happy about what we're doing, because the ultimatum was so awful that, what else have you got to do? Get forward. That's my words. We're always moving forward. We're not going back. It's taken a lot longer than anyone thought. Hey, in the time frame, it's the shortest war of all time.
And the most important one.
And by saying shortest, I mean that we've really known what was going on. Yes, the last couple of years have, as you say, condensed into finding it out. And like, what we found out should have decimated everybody. They shouldn't have been able to get up again. Well, we did. So just keep moving forward, stay positive. You'll have your down times. Everybody has down times. Pick yourself up, keep moving.
That's where I think we're lucky, because if I have one of those days I dip, I have my Jedi friends, I'll say, like, are you feeling weird energy today? Did you sleep well last night? Whatever it might be. And they buck me up. They support me with love, or they'll correct me if I'm wrong or whatever. It's fabulous. And of course I do that for them as well.
And that's what we do. We love to talk to our Jedi friends and support them. And in doing that, you're getting support back anyway, because it's all about love and light. And that's another thing I tell people, that aren't on with us as well. You've got to work through your heart. You've got to work through love and light. And like, I've been with thousands. Wow, we've had a couple of million now. And you're just moving around, and people are awake from every profession, you know, and they are working through love and light, even those that don't realise it, because the light's around us now. With, you know, with what Smarty, the angelics, the galactics, the crew, what's gone down, and with the military worldwide and all that, we've taken out the majority of the dark. So it is a bright future for everybody, and that's what I would encourage them to seek, more light.
Right. Agreed. It's very exciting.
And one of the important things, is that you can't patch up with the families and the friends that are totally asleep.
Right.
You just have to move around them. A lot of people still worry about that. Although at this stage, most of the people I'm talking to, we aren't. We know wake up's going to be pretty awful for them, and it's coming pretty soon. Yeah. But it's not our problem.
Right. I talked about that last week with somebody. We're not supposed to wait and have every citizen come with us, if you will. We do as much as we can, as fast and as simultaneous as we can, but we have to go forward.
Exactly. It's
that
now. Forward movement.
Yeah. And we want everyone to be with us, but we have to do what we do. And they have a choice as well. You know, the information is out there. They just have to want, like a lot of people, like I'll say something to somebody and they literally won't even ask what I'm talking about. They don't want to know. They don't want to, because it's scary. And also then they might have to do research or whatever and change their whole belief system. They don't want to know. That's hard work.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Yeah. There are so many people out there asking questions, but they don't want the answers.
Yeah. And it's not easy. When you find out some of the stuff that's happening now, like I did a lot of crying. I mean, I went to bed like crying, and I'd see videos and all, like a lot of that's, you know, not easy to get anymore. And I know enough about what's happening, but it's very, like, you don't even understand how people could do that to other people, you know?
No, and let alone kids. I did a lot of crying too, and I wasn't a crier before this.
Me either.
Now.
Yeah. So, you know, it makes my heart feels just sad and all that, but we have to go forward. We have to do what we do. It will be revealed. And hopefully those people will be saved in some fashion, whether they come back around or whatever it is. Yeah.
And I think with the crystalline chambers, besides our wands and everything else, once we knew that they were coming, and people will have a choice, but I mean, it'd be pretty silly not to choose to get healed. But that gives us all the confidence to know that family, friends, loved ones, and that's across the board for everybody, because everyone that we love loves somebody else, or every friend has another friend. So across the board, all around the world, we will be healing all this. So exciting. So there's nothing that keeps me more excited than that.
Right.
So we're going to fix this world. And I always say one person at a time if it has to be. Yeah. But that, of course, is just sort of not true.
We want it to be billions at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. But it, you know, we are affecting people like when you go to these protests, you're physically there, your charm is there, your wand is there, your intentions are there. You are helping so many people in ways you don't even know, just lifting the vibration of that crowd a little bit more. And the police officers and everyone.
Oh, yes, I talk to them a lot, and they're very good. I actually, one funny thing, when we were standing there where we're all getting together and getting ready to sort of start marching, and we had our drummers going and everything else, there was a guy in front of me that I know, one of the guys, I can't think, I'm terrible with names now. I never forget a face. Really good with photographic memory, but I forget names. Anyway, he was pointing to my way sort of, and he was talking to a guy, and he goes, she's a legend. So I turned around to see who he was talking about, and there was no one there. And I said to Bob, oh my God. So it was a real pivotal moment for me. I thought, boy, does that, you know you're making a difference. Everybody tells you you're making a difference for speaking up and for what we're doing. But that was a real, I thought, that is that's probably one of the nicest things anyone's ever said about
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
But the fact that I just looked around because I thought, oh, who's he talking about?
Wait till after this is over, then you'll really be a legend. They'll be like, oh yeah, I know
golly.
her.
Oh golly.
So,
Yeah, well, we all say and do the wrong things. So we've got, but basically, like we're saying, moving forward, keeping the light shining, bringing in everyone that wants to be brought in, because I honestly do believe that a lot aren't meant to be awake. They couldn't cope with it.
Right. Right.
So my message for everybody would be, come on board.
Yeah. Give it a listen, learn, and give it a try. Right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to get to know you more. And I hope that we could talk again, because I think just in our 1 hour conversation, you've had a really broad range of experience, and you have information to pass on. And I think maybe we could talk again in the future.
Oh, that'd be lovely, Sue.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And I'll be talking with you soon.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. It's great. Was great, because I was really worried how I'd go.
Oh, well, you have no problems talking. I already know that about you.
Yes. But I've always felt that I've got to get a message across to people, and so I was like, oh, will I be able to do that? That worried me greatly. I mean, if you want to cut it out, that's fine. But,
well, you know what? Here's the thing. It's the authentic you. We're just having a conversation. We're still recording, by the way. We're having a conversation, and they can take what they like and leave what they don't like. And hopefully they like it all.
I think that's my motto in life. I'm going to say it, whether you like it or not, that's up to you.
Yeah. Good. Well, I will talk to you soon, Chris. Thank you so much for your
thank you, Sue, for the opportunity.
Okay.
Love.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.